Prime Minister. The member for Période South and leader of his party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The pandemic has revealed fragility in our healthcare system, in our senior care system, in our food production system, in our social safety net, and in our supply lines. It has exposed the pressing needs for major investments in our public institutions and in our food system to build resilience into our society and our economy. How do we do this, Mr. Speaker? Where do we find the money? Well, Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Canada, the very bank we as Canadians own, brought Canada out of the Great Depression with the injection of money into our infrastructure, loaning money to provinces. It was the Bank of Canada that financed our enormously costly war effort during World War II. And afterwards, it financed the programs needed to assist returning soldiers, our veterans, with vocational and university training, even providing them with access to farmland. We need the Bank of Canada now to play that role again as we deal with a crisis that has been compared to both of those momentous events in the life of our country. My question is for the Premier. Will he muster the support of his fellow Premiers to insist that Prime Minister Trudeau will use the full potential of the Bank of Canada to once again carry us through a crisis of its own?
The Honourable the Premier.
So, Mr. Speaker, I would agree with the Leader of the Green Party that certainly, bringing back our economy in a way like never before is extremely important. And I would say that the federal government is certainly leveraging the Bank of Canada in light of I think where we are now, about $300 billion. I think that's the number so that's being spread all over the country. So I think, and I know individually, provinces, as we meet and talk weekly, really, the financial support is coming from the federal government and not independently from provinces in terms of a Bank of Canada borrowing. However, I think the important thing is how do we focus on what's important, like food security, like in terms of safety issues and the safety nets that are so important to our society. You know, when we talk about business, and I go back to that because a stat that was worthy of mentioning in relation to the CFIB report. So the recent CFIB report says that New Brunswick and PEI are leading every other province in terms of new businesses opening up, over 54%.
The member for Période South and leader of his party.
Monsieur le Président, bâtir une société et une économie résiliente nécessite une démarche véritablement nationale. Nous faisons partie de la colonie unie qui s'est forgée pour le bien de tous entre nous-mêmes, la Nouvelle-Écosse et la province du Canada. La Banque du Canada est une des institutions qui est ressortie de cette union. Les banques privées réalisent l'argent qu'elles prêtent, comme le fait la Banque du Canada. Mais il y a une grande différence. La Banque du Canada remet les intérêts gagnés au gouvernement, à notre communauté nationale, tandis que les banques privées, elles siphonnent ailleurs les intérêts gagnés pour les réinvestir et demander encore plus d'intérêts. Ce faisant, elles retirent de l'argent de notre économie productive. À nous de faire autrement et de remettre ce puissant outil économique entre les mains de notre gouvernement pour qu'il puisse jouer son rôle et nous aider à traverser nos heures les plus sombres.
Time. Member. Honourable the Premier.
Thank you for the comments. I guess in relation to the Bank of Canada and the role, I mean, I don't think there's any maybe discussion or debate on how important that role is. But I think in terms of the money from the federal government, as I said before, Mr. Speaker, that is where the federal government is playing a major role here in terms of funding the nation in how we move forward. And we've asked for more flexibility in where we can put money into areas that are going to have a long-term view on sustainability. And I guess, what I would suggest coming from this is that, in the meetings we've had to this point with our COVID cabinet group, it's about how do we define the 4 or 5 priorities that we could focus on in terms of where the province needs to move forward, that we can actually do that collectively. So I think that there were some very good points that were raised during many of the discussions that we had on a range of issues, but obviously COVID focused at the time. But food security was one that came up significantly. But the economy and borrowing more for the economy, there's a balance there somewhere, Mr. Speaker, and I think we have to collectively find it.